Yeah, late L Kid at OneYoungsta holding it down, bringing that street geek and nerd soul. What is up, my people? Today we have a sort of special episode. I am here joined by the lovely lady Lisa. She is my lady, my wife, my partner in crime. And we're about to talk about Surviving R. Kelly, the first two parts of this 6-part documentary. But I'll throw it to Lisa first. What are your first, initial reactions from this?
It's funny to me how when I say we, I mean Black folks, how we knew so much about a lot of this, but we all just tap danced around it or ignored it. You know, when it came out about Aaliyah, we knew. We knew. And the song Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, we're singing along with it and nobody's like, hey, so it's like we knew, but then we still wanted to be shocked and appalled about it. And so not just even talking about him and his actions yet, like looking at us as Black folk to have behaved that way is like, we need to ask ourselves, why is that?
Yeah, it is crazy because it seems like there was so many opportunities, so many times, so many chances that just things were brought to light or things were talked about or rumored or whatever, and nobody seemed to really throw up a red flag at all. And even myself, I remember hearing about the R. Kelly and Aaliyah thing, and at the time I was surprised because I thought Aaliyah was older than she was because how they styled her. So I actually thought she was older than she was, and when I found out that she was 14 or 15 at the time, I can't remember, I was actually like, whoa, isn't this like a big deal? But it seemed like it kind of just went away. Like a lot of the stuff that R. Kelly's done through the years seems like it was just like poof.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like.
And sad to say, and of course through the years you would hear, people talk about it a little bit or talk around it. And some people would flat out say, I ain't gonna stop listening to his music. R. Kelly got some good music. I'm sorry. Like, me not listening to his music ain't gonna change nothing. And it's like, well, I see your point. And he does have good music, but it's like, it's hard for me to listen to knowing what I know. I can't, in my good conscience, listen to it. Now, as we were watching the documentary, I said, dang, I miss his music. And I do.
Yeah, because he did make some good joints.
He made some fantastic music.
He has some great music.
But in all good conscience, I can't listen to his music anymore.
And I think the main reason is because of the sexual energy in the songs and the sexual energy that you knew it was created from. Like,
right.
And I kind of put it to like Bill Cosby and R. Kelly. They both kind of perpetrated sort of similar things. They're in the same kind of like atmosphere. But the reason you can still watch Bill Cosby is because like Cliff Huxtable is a character. Cliff Huxtable is a dad.
Yeah.
So you can be like, these are the Huxtables. Bill Cosby is Bill Cosby. But R. Kelly is R. Kelly all the time. R. Kelly's album is a R. Kelly. He's him. So so like listening to that, it's like you get this feeling like, yeah, this is a good song. It's a baby making song. But now when I think about it, I have to think about, yeah, but he was most likely writing this due to the energy that he had focused on some girl that was 14.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets weird for me. And that's why I don't mess with none of his music.
And it makes me, I just thought of this. It makes me wonder if he ever had a sexual experience with a woman.
Well, his wife, I assume they had sex.
But she was young when he met her.
But she was at least 19.
She was. But I mean...
19 is still young.
When I guess I meant to say, did he ever have a sexual experience with a woman before he started dealing with young girls? Like, as he became a man, did he have sex with a woman, or did he just continue to have sex or pursue young girls? You know, when he came into his manhood, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Did he pursue women, or was it always young girls?
That's interesting. And with that said, I guess we should jump into kind of how the documentary starts, talking about him, his family, stuff like that, like where he came from. I mean, R. Kelly, a friend of mine said, you know, there's a lot of R. Kellys in the hood. And, you know, he comes from the projects. And, you know, his family, you know, kind of like, you know, similar upbringing to a lot of black people in that area at that time, or many black people around the country. And unfortunately, he was molested, abused, sexually assaulted, whatever, when he was young. And not only him, but also his brother. And he said that his brother said that he was molested from 7 to either 13 or 14. So to take a guess, if we know it happened to R. Kelly as well from his brother, then we can probably guess that probably approximately the same time he was also molested, which is where this kind of thing comes from.
Yeah.
And
it's so funny because as we were watching, and I said, you know, it awakens something in you sexually that shouldn't be. And it's so funny because right after I said that,
yep,
that's exactly what someone else said in the documentary.
Yeah,
you know,
that was when he was talking to Tavis Smiley.
Oh, yeah, you know, so that's exactly what happens. It's something in you that of course by nature is in you, but at 7, 8 years old, you're not supposed to be
there.
You're not supposed to even think about sex. Your body isn't supposed to feel anything having to do with that. And yeah, so.
And it's sad because this is something that is prevalent in the black community where, you know, his younger brother had been molested for years and years and years. And even now as a grown man, and I'm assuming, I don't know, maybe in his 40s, something like that. Even now, he can't even say who it was.
Yeah.
You know, and even now he's like, I'm holding it in. I've held it in. And there's a part of me as being a man, there's a part where you just hold it in. You know,
yeah,
you don't let it out. But that's the type of stuff, that's the type of stress that, you know, that breaks you down. That's the kind of trauma that breaks you down. You know, you can't, especially when he talked about, you know, being molested and then going to his brother, Robert, and Robert being like, nah, that's not true. That didn't happen or whatever. And that leads me to believe that Robert at the same time was probably being molested as well, but didn't want to face it.
Yeah, they were, because they seem to be rather close in age.
Yeah.
And so it had to have been happening simultaneously, because both of them said it happened, you know, from like 7 to 13 and then 6 to 14, something like that. So
yeah,
it definitely overlapped. And like I was telling you, I think, you know, R. Kelly said that to his brother because in his mind, we're not having this discussion. We're not talking about it. If I say it didn't happen, then in my mind, I can pretend it didn't happen. And also, if he were to listen to his brother and believe him, I believe he did believe him. You know what I mean? Of course he did. But if he admitted to him that he believed him, and they go on and they tell their mom, and then of course mom is going to turn to her other children and ask them, has this happened to you?
Yeah.
And then he's going to have to talk about what's been happening to him. And you know, I think it's that whole survival mode. You don't want to deal with this.
And also being scared, you know, because whoever was to be able to do it this long or that long, and then also have them being scared. To at least two children. And for them to be scared to tell their mother, it was most likely either a close family friend or a family member.
Right.
It had to be, if it wasn't a family member.
It usually is.
Yeah, it usually is. And it's just, it hurts because looking at this trauma is definitely something. we have an infant in the studio, guys.
We have a 1-year-old. You have to excuse the random noise.
Oh man, I love my baby boy, but
It's a very serious discussion, people. Keep it together.
So you look at this and you're like, for them to be assaulted in this way for this long and then still not even vocalize it, you know how much pain is there. So then I do like the documentary showing this because it gives you an insight into where this comes from for R. Kelly.
Yeah.
And this is not to absolve him of anything.
Right.
Because this is just, I like the fact that they showed that, look, abuse begets abuse.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you are being abused, please find someone to talk to. Even if you're an adult now, find someone to let it out about. Whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to because you could fall into that cycle of now then turning and abusing someone else.
Right.
Now, of course, in the R. Kelly situation, you also have tons of money and access and resources,
And too many people around you that are willing to say yes to anything. That's the other thing that really blows my mind in terms of these situations that we hear about with celebrities who do these types of things. They, because they have to have people that help them.
Yeah.
And there's so many people.
Like he said, he had his boys following girls around.
And he'll tell them, go to the mall and get some girls. And they'll go to the mall and get some girls.
Yeah.
And it's like, in these situations, it's too many people around that are so willing to just say yes to things. And it's like, but if you didn't have these yes people, you wouldn't be able to do this. And so, yeah, that blows my mind.
And there's something that his older brother said, and his older brother, I believe, is in jail at this time because it looked like
he was definitely in jail.
At least at the time,
they put it on the screen too.
Yeah, at the time of recording this, he was locked down.
Absolutely.
But I have to say this, at least from a man's perspective, to make sure it's down on record. Sleeping with underage girls is not a preference, because he made a statement about, well, I like older women. He like younger women. It's like, no,
he likes girls.
Yeah, he likes girls. See, younger women would be like, he likes women that are 20, 21, 22,
right.
Something like that. 19. But like his wife, when he met his wife. I mean, it's still
it's still of
legal
age.
Adult age.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But he is preying on girls that are 13. I'm so sorry, guys. My baby boy is determined to be on part of this joint. But it's, he's preying on 13, 14-year-old girls and then manipulating and abusing them. That's not a preference. Even if you wanted to try to logically follow this out to being a preference, then what would excuse, or how would you explain the manipulation? How would you explain the abuse part of it?
Right.
Because if he had a preference of just young girls, he would have a normal relationship with a young girl. Like, she would just be young, but he would have a regular relationship.
Right.
He wouldn't be smacking them. He wouldn't be pulling them down the hall. He wouldn't be locking them in rooms and making them knock, to be able to get out of the room so they could get something to eat. So it's not a preference.
Yeah.
To present it as a preference is part of the problem that we have around pedophilia in America at this time.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you just liking young girls. These are kids, 13. You are in no way ready to have like a sexual relationship.
Yeah. Also, I kept, throughout this, I just kept going, where is your mama? Where are these girls' mamas? I don't even want to get into where are the daddies, because that's a conversation that, we can have in a lot, too. But my main thing is, even if daddy isn't around, where is your mama? You know, I just keep asking this because they talk about these situations where, you know, these young girls are going to his studio and, you know, meeting him here and meeting him there. And it's like, where did you tell your mama you are? What, like,
yeah.
And then, you know, they're there for days at a time. Where is your mother?
Yeah, and there was that one girl at the end of the second part where she had exclaimed that, she had exclaimed that she was going to Chicago and her mom didn't want her to go, but her mom knew her mind was made up.
Yeah.
So you know, even the moms that did know, you know, when you have, and I mean, of course, we've all been kids, and someone listening right now might be a kid, like, you know, 15, 16, 17. But if you're not, and you're, say, 30, 40, 20, something like that, you know, yes, like, your parents controlled you, but if you're 18 or say 16, 17, if you want to go, like, your mom can't, like, physically hold you. You know, at 16, you're kind of, like, too powerful, I guess. And then, of course, I guess her mom was trying to balance it out on whether, you know, should I try to force her to stay and make her sneak out and leave? Like, you have this weird situation, you know what I'm saying, where you don't know what to do or how to handle it, you know, when you're dealing with someone that age, that young, but that also that headstrong. So that's something that you know, when you're a mother or a parent, you know, of a child that is that age, there's this weird situation where it's like, you know, I'm their parent, but I mean, they can really go if they really, really, really wanted to go. Like this young lady, you couldn't stop her. I mean, I guess you could, but you couldn't.
And
you know
I understand, you know, because I'm thinking back to me being a teenager, you know, and I understand that, you know, and of course, you know, hindsight is always 20/20, and I'm sure her mother probably didn't understand the situation, you know, because the girl didn't really, I don't think, understand the situation.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk more about her in a little bit because, you know, I took issue.
Yeah.
With her.
Because that particular young lady, and I can't remember her name right now.
Her name was Lisa, I think.
Lisa, okay. But that particular young lady, you know, her situation was a little different.
It was a lot different.
Yes. So, like, we'll touch on her later. Mm-hmm. I did want to touch on the whole thing with Aaliyah. I never knew it was that in depth. Like, her uncle was her manager and was there the whole time. And, all right, okay, so.
And he was there. Her uncle is the one who got the illegal papers, the forged papers for Aaliyah and R. Kelly to be married, because she, of course, had to put on there that she was 18 when she was really 15.
Yeah.
He is the one who went and got the papers, Lord. Her uncle.
Yeah.
The man who her parents entrusted to look after her and take care of her.
Yeah, it's a shame because in my mind, the only thing that I can try to figure out why or how, because he does make a statement. He did make a statement about, he made a statement about, you know, asking R. Kelly, is there anything going on, whatever. And he said that R. Kelly said no. And the only thing that I can see how this happened is, I think he knew, but he wanted to believe R. Kelly. He wanted to believe that nothing was going on.
And that's the problem.
And
you knew in your heart of hearts, because he talks about, see, that's the thing. You know, we sit and we're watching, and I pay a lot of attention to people's choices of wording. And he even made the comment that he had been watching them together.
Yeah.
It was one particular, event he talked about where they were going somewhere, and he was walking behind the two of them.
Oh, and they were like giggling and stuff
Yeah,
or something like that.
and he laughed about it, which I thought was very creepy. So he had been watching them, and he even said, I saw that they were getting closer. So I don't care what you ask this man. No pedophile's gonna be like, oh yeah,
I'm a pedophile.
So you knew, but you wanted to be able to say, well, I asked him and he said no, and you think that's going to get you off the hook.
Yeah,
the
that's
bottom
one of them
line
Trump
is this:
joints.
that's your niece, that's your blood.
Yeah,
you're supposed to look out for her. You're supposed to step to him like a man and say, look, I don't care who you are, I don't care how many records you sold.
Yeah.
That's my niece.
Yeah, I don't care how many times you go on platinum.
Yeah,
none of that.
I'm gonna give you a platinum eye. How about that? Like. I don't understand, just from his demeanor in the interview, how I don't want to say he's nonchalant, but he's almost.
No, he was definitely nonchalant, like it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, it's like that's your niece.
But that takes me back to, in the black community, like they said, age ain't nothing but a number. That is definitely something that I have heard on the block tons of times. I've heard it in houses, I've heard it on the street, and I've heard it come out of the mouths of black men and women that were older than me. I've heard it multiple times. So it is this thing where he probably didn't see it as much. Plus, remember, this dude is getting paid. Money is flowing. All right, public announcement was already hot. Hot enough for R. Kelly to go solo. He had his solo album. That was hot. Now Aaliyah's joined out, and that is hot. So money is flowing. Everybody's happy. So even if he didn't like it, there was probably a part of him that was like, but do I want to stop the gravy train?
And that's what I have a problem with.
Because he's probably looking at it saying, well, Aaliyah does like him, and he's not mistreating her, and this gravy train is rolling, and just further and further down this slippery slope, where he's letting his own niece be, I guess, entrapped or...
Yeah, I take issue with that. I understand that may be his reasoning, but...
This is something that we all have to work on as family members in general. There's a lot of family secrets, that we all have. And they're tough. I'm not saying that this is not an easy issue to deal with. But when you have these family secrets, the reason that we have to bring these to light is because these have further reaching implications. R. Kelly was molested when he was a boy. Now look at all the women's lives he's destroyed because of that.
Yeah.
When the younger brother or the older brother or whoever or the sister or whatever could have came out and said, we're being molested right now.
Yeah.
And, talk to CPS or talk to the mom or talk to the cops, whoever.
And whichever one was older could have prevented the younger from being molested if you had called out the molester.
Yeah.
But you can't blame them as a child.
Evidently, not saying that, but just saying.
Yeah, evidently the atmosphere or whatever did not make them feel like they could do that.
But I'm assuming that if they were molested that long, the person that was molesting them wasn't the only one that knew that was going on. Kind of like Aaliyah's uncle, he knew what was up. You know what I'm saying? And we and our families have to be the ones to heal these wounds or create the wound before it heals. You know what I'm saying? It's because it's something it'll continue to fester and get worse for other young boys and girls, all across America if we don't do something or say something about it.
But yeah, thinking back to, all the different people where they interviewed that kind of had an inkling, or even more than an inkling, that he was targeting young girls. His music teacher, remember, they talked to her, and she said to him, you need to stop messing with those young girls.
Yeah.
So she knew that's what he was doing. She said something like, stay away from the high school, whatever. When I think the high school...
So you're talking about tons of people that knew about this.
Yeah, the high school vice principal said years after R. Kelly had graduated, he would see him on campus. and
Yeah.
asking, why is he on campus? Another young lady even said the same thing. He'd been graduated years before that, and she would see him on campus. What is he doing on campus? So that's the other thing with this is, again, and I have to say, I'm sorry, it's a black community thing where it's like you see it, but then you pretend you don't see it, or you say something to somebody else about you saw it, and then you just kind of shake your head at each other, and then you move on, and then something happens, and that person is on the news, and then everybody wants to clutch their pearls. Yeah, they either clutch their pearls, in awe, or they're like, oh, well, I knew. Well, if you knew,
why didn't you say
something?
Yeah.
Why didn't you call him out?
Why is this the first time I'm hearing it?
Right. Or why didn't you, if you didn't want to call him out, why didn't you at least tell, look, girls, look, he come around and y'all think he want to give y'all a chance with the record deal and stuff? I'm telling you right now, that's not what that man is after. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm warning you right now. When you see him coming, go the other way.
Yeah. So yeah, that does make me wonder sometimes and I mean, of course, this is years past, but what is the liability when it comes to like school teachers, school faculty, stuff like that? If they were saying that like, yo, we knew that this dude was coming around trying to scoop up the young girls, where does their liability lie? And I mean, I know this is years later, so it's not like you can really do anything, but when watching this, you get to see, like I said, the shades of complicity in this. Like people that knew or halfway knew or kind of like turned a blind eye or, well, it's not too bad kind of stuff. And I don't know, I just wonder about that sometimes, I guess.
I think it's one of those things where you see it and you don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. You second guess yourself. You don't want to be like, you second guess yourself. Like, well, what if I'm wrong and I've called this man a pedophile, and it's a whole lot of second guessing and not wanting to be the one that says something.
Yeah, I guess.
It's a whole lot of, well, what should I do? And I think that's pretty much what it is. Is no one wants to say anything, but I'm sure there were plenty of people that got together later and had a conversation about it, like, oh yeah, he was on campus again. Yeah, I saw him on campus. And like, why he keep coming on campus? And everybody gives each other a look like, we know what he's doing on campus, but no one wants to say anything in a matter that matters and can make a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have banned him from campus, but again, he's R. Kelly. Now, he's not the huge R. Kelly as of yet, but he is R. Kelly. And like you said, he's hood famous at this point. Yeah,
because at that point, he was kind of like, I think he had public announcement, but I don't think, at least the point that I think they're referring to, public announcement was out, but his solo album wasn't out yet. At least the timeline that I think that they're referring to, because they kind of like jump around different times of his career.
So at this point, if he's even in just public announcement, I mean, that was huge. And he's coming around the high school, or he's going to the local McDonald's and hanging out. No one wants to call him a pedophile, whether it's outright or inadvertently. Who wants to be that person?
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Nobody wants to be that one.
Right.
And to a certain degree, it seems like he had a lot of people either backing him or protecting him.
Oh, yeah.
Or, because, you made the comment of when this stuff was going on, where was Essence? Where was Ebony? Where was Jet Magazine?
Someone had said that on there, and it's like, yeah.
Where were these, outlets that at least covered Black culture to kind of like take him on? But it seemed like nothing was really being done about it.
Yeah. So even after the whole thing came out about Aaliyah, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't recall Ebony, writing about it. I don't recall Essence, Jet, anybody, saying anything about it. And it's like, of course, for the Black community, those are our go-tos, in terms of all of that. And so, and one other thing I want to go back to, I don't recall that interview with R. Kelly and, oh gosh, I can't think of his name now.
Torre? Tavis Smiley?
Tavis Smiley. I don't recall that interview.
Me neither.
And I know that was during the time when BET was hot, and that's where you kind of would go to for your interviews and stuff. I don't recall that interview.
Nah, me neither.
I recall the interview with R. Kelly and Aaliyah. I remember that one well.
Oh, okay. See, like, I vaguely remember that. So when they played that, I was like, oh, okay. And it was good to see Big Les, because I ain't seen her, like, forever. Mm-hmm. Like, Big Les, Joe Claire, WRAP, Rap Radio. Mm-hmm. But it's just sad when you see how all of this came together over time. Now, there was, before, because there was that young lady that you wanted to talk about, which we talked about a little bit, but you saw something on Twitter about a letter that Aaliyah's mother wrote.
Yes, apparently Aaliyah's mother was very upset, specifically about I think it was the very first young lady that was talking about being on tour, and she knew Aaliyah. She was a backup singer or dancer, one of the two, and she was saying that her and Aaliyah were very close and they were tight. And she flat out said that she saw R. Kelly having sex with Aaliyah on a tour bus. Yeah. Well, Aaliyah's mother was very upset about it. She said this woman is a liar. She's never seen her before in her life. Said, she never was with Aaliyah, never breathed the same air as Aaliyah, and she doesn't understand why she has to pull Aaliyah's name into this. And my thing with that is, I feel really bad for her mom, because I can only imagine the pain that's still there. Even after all these years, that's her daughter, and even though she was in the spotlight, I'm sorry, with her being in the spotlight, I'm sure that makes everything worse, because her name comes up all the time, and she has to see her face, all the time. But, I don't think she should let her feelings get away from her, because she also said in the letter that her husband and her were always there with Aaliyah, every interview, in the recording studio. And it's like, if you were always there, how did she have this relationship with R. Kelly? How did they run away and get married? So it's like, don't let your feelings get away from you, because people were coming back at her on Twitter, and it's like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, because you open the door. When you say something like that, you open the door for people to be like, okay, so if you were there all the time, then either A, you were just completely oblivious and did not see the signs. Yeah. Or B, you were completely fine with it. Yeah. Because there's no way you could be there the whole time, even up to the whole time up to the marriage, and then through the marriage, and not see anything.
Right. Because then I asked, so are you denying that they had a relationship? That they shouldn't have had? Because if you're denying that, then that's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, because now you get into the territory of, if you were there the whole time and we know for a fact they were married, then were you completely, accepting of this relationship between this man that was, I believe, 27 at the time, and she was 15. So because you have to. It doesn't. Either or. It's either or. You can't say that you were there the whole time and none of this stuff happened. And to get married, you'd assume that they held hands, hugged, kissed at least once. Right. And then once they were married, the general perception is once you're married, you may have had sex at least once.
Right. I think she was upset about either the shock Well, it's one of the two in terms of this. She was either upset that it was said, like she may have possibly known, but she was upset that it was said.
Yeah.
Or she didn't know, and the shock of it being said in public, and now she knows. Because it's further, kind of smears or tarnishes her daughter's name.
Her daughter's name and legacy, yeah.
But let me say this, despite all of that, I don't believe there is one single solitary person that has ever had anything negative to say about Aaliyah because of that. Her fans loved Aaliyah so much, and I don't mean blindly loved her and think she could do no wrong, but I don't think anyone looked at her negatively because of the relationship. I think everyone sees it as she was extremely young, and she was kind of manipulated by a mentor.
Yeah, I don't someone she saw as a mentor, and
she was young.
Yeah, she was young. And I've said this to men before. They'll be like, oh, she wanted it, or she liked me, or she came on to me. Yeah, she's supposed to. She's a child.
Exactly.
She doesn't know. Like, it's kind of like when the kid puts their hand up on the stove. They don't know. Right. You can tell them it's hot, but they don't really know. But as adults, it's our job to move their hand out the way. Or it's our jobs to say, look, I see that you find me attractive, and I'm very flattered, but this is not a relationship we are supposed to have. So, and you are supposed to shut it down as an adult.
So I don't think anyone will look at Aaliyah differently, even with this having come out. And that is a very shocking statement that she made. But even still, I don't think anyone who ever loved Aaliyah and was a true fan of Aaliyah would ever think badly or differently of her. You know, and I think that in her mother's mind, that's what she's thinking. And, no one wants to hear that.
Yeah. Especially, the way Aaliyah passed and stuff. It kind of makes it a little worse. She was so young. So it kind of makes it worse.
Yeah.
Now, I did want to jump and talk about I believe, sort of like the last young lady that rounded out the first 2 episodes of, the whole R. Kelly 6-part, and part 2, the young lady that we're referring to, and I can't think of her name at this time. I think you said her name might have been Lisa.
I think her name was Lisa.
All right. Yeah. But she's the one who kind of left, who met R. Kelly, ended up leaving home to visit him in Chicago, came back home, and I think she came back home twice, and then went kind of for good. And she made the statement about, and we talked briefly about, how, you can't really control a kid that's like, she said she was 17, and you can't really control someone at that age because they're coming into their man or womanhood. But so they think. So I'll let you take it from here because I know you had something that you wanted to say about her, and then I'll jump off of it in a second.
Okay, so I felt a kind of way about her being included in this, sort of, because to hear her speak, the way she describes how things went down, she chose, to kind of go with R. Kelly. And I say that because first of all, she said that she was introduced to him through his girlfriend, which was her friend. So when she was introduced to him, she clearly knew he had a girlfriend. Yeah. Which was her friend. Yeah. And then she says the party they went to, he came on to her, and she pretty much accepted. And so my thing is this: you can't have it both ways. You can't say, having said all of that, so in essence, you are accepting the come on from a guy who is your friend's boyfriend. Yeah. And then you want to kind of insinuate that you were manipulated.
Yeah, the part where she kind of deviates is because she left him and then came back. I believe the story is that she went to Chicago, came back home, then went to Chicago, came back home, and then went to Chicago for good, I guess you could say.
And think about it, before that is when she went to his tour bus and had sex with him.
Yeah,
she went to
when
the
he
tour
had
bus,
her undressed and everything.
Yeah, and he had her undressed, and then she says, oh, and then he started making insinuations of sex. What do you mean, oh, then? You were undressed. What did you think was going to happen next? A hokey pokey?
Yeah. So
you're not that dumb.
I think her situation is, he's fun, he's charismatic, he's so nice, he's cool. And then once she gets in there, like, she chose to be with him, but then was abused after that choice.
She was abused well after that choice. But my thing is this, let's just be real. Yes, these other girls, I believe, are completely believable. They were manipulated, they were mistreated.
Yeah.
Now,
and they were kind of strung along with this whole idea of a music career.
But with this girl, I don't want us to miss out on the point that she made some bad choices. And I think that's what it came down to. In the beginning, she made some bad choices that led to her being in a situation where she had no protection, where she was mistreated, and she was led down a path that was not good. But let's be clear, at the very beginning, she made bad choices. Because even when she talked about the tour bus and she went on the bus and he came in and she got undressed and, he asked her to do sexual things and she did them. And she made the point that he would come in and off the bus. She had the opportunity to leave at that point, but she stayed and continued to let him come back and forth, probably coming back and forth, having sex with her or having her do whatever with him. And then after that happened and he sent her home, then she decides to take her happy behind to Chicago, despite her mother probably telling her, please, please, please don't go. And she goes back and forth to Chicago, back home, back and forth, and then stays. So I'm saying that because, in all fairness, she made some bad decisions, and I don't think she needs to fall under the same umbrella as the other girls who were truly, manipulated into getting into these situations. And I say that also because it's like you make some bad decisions thinking it's always fun and he's sexy and ooh, he likes me, and it's like you making some grown woman decisions right now and I need you to step back. And I think that was one of those situations, and I'm sure there are other girls that fall under that separate umbrella too, where you made some grown woman decisions and you were still a little girl and it got you in a bad situation. I'm not trying to say she brought this on herself in terms of the abuse. What I am saying is your bad decisions, it's situations where girls they're trying to be grown and they think they're grown. They think they know everything, just like with her leaving home. You think you know everything and you don't. You still need guidance. You still need protection. Yeah, I just felt like she needed to be separated.
All right, it makes sense, because when the thing that stuck out to me is when she said that she went back, and I was like, hold on, so she went back to Chicago, and then and then even the part where he kind of got her into having threesomes and stuff like that, and it, she had these opportunities where it's like, yo, it is staring you in the face. You got to get out of here. Yeah. And I assume after a while she did. But leading off of that, she was sleeping. Well, she was being put into threesomes with Sparkle's little sister or niece. And the thing about Sparkle is she talked about, like, okay, me and R. Kelly, I've been his backup singer for like years and years and years and years.
Yeah, she was there from like the beginning. She was one of his original backup singers.
So she was like, I know how he do. He don't run me, blah, blah, blah. And the point about Sparkle that kind of hurts is she knew her niece was talented. And knowing his propensity to go after young girls, she still brought her around R. Kelly. And here's why.
I take issue with that too.
Well, here's why. Because in her mind, I'll be there all the time. He can't do nothing in front of me because I'll stop it. she never thought he'll go behind my back and have someone pick her up and bring her to the studio. She never thought that far. And I mean, I guess she thought he'd never go that far, but I think the fact that she didn't take no crap from him
Right.
made him want to do that to her niece
Absolutely.
even more.
Because the whole theme with all of these women was he's so controlling.
Yeah.
He's so manipulative. And that makes sense. In his mind, Sparkle was the one that he couldn't tame, that
Yeah.
he couldn't control.
Yeah.
She, I imagine she was mouth almighty. If he said, A, she said Z.
Yeah.
And so in his mind, like, oh, you gonna bring this little girl up in here? I got you.
Yeah, because even when she was like, "What are you doing here?" and she was like, "Oh, he said he's gonna have this Christmas party with all the kids," and I'm like, "Yo, this dude is like." At that moment, you knew like R. Kelly was like straight up, like this. Don't get me wrong. There's a part of me that does believe that R. Kelly is developmentally challenged, because that part where his older brother talks about him crying in the bathroom because he can't read and kids making fun of him, and he was molested. And I do think those two things paired with, well, those two things alone will make you manipulative and make you prey on young people itself. But that plus always having nothing but yes men, having all this money, all this access, thinking carrying himself like he's a king, that added to it.
Yeah.
And this is someone who should have been sat down a long time ago. And for whatever reason, he had been able, either between, record labels or even, societal pressure inside and outside of Chicago, black culture pressure, you know what I'm saying? He's such a great musician. He's a musical genius. And honestly, how they describe his childhood, yeah, he's a musical genius. Doesn't mean that he's not manipulative. Doesn't mean that he's not a pedophile. Doesn't mean that he can still be a musical genius.
Absolutely.
And I think it was them, and when I say them, I mean like most of his team, like the people that stuck around him, managers, agents, whatever. I think it was a lot of them trying to keep the ball and keep the party rolling, because I'm sure R. Kelly made a lot of money for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, look, hey, I don't know about this little girl stuff, but I get paid. We out here making money. We flying private jets. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of turn a blind eye.
Yeah, and I think that happens. I'm sure
that
happens
everywhere.
a lot in the music industry.
Yeah.
Whether it be drugs, whether it be prostitutes, whether it be little girls or alcohol, whatever it is.
Yeah, because they talked about it being extremely prevalent in rock and roll, and I said that when we were watching it, like before they got it, I was like, this is something that has always been around in rock and roll.
Yeah.
And now, of course, seeing it in hip hop culture or R&B, black culture, there's, like my boy said, there's a lot of R. Kellys in the hood. The only thing is that they're not super rich and famous and got Grammys and all kinds of stuff.
Because the thing is this, in terms of music, and in terms of R&B or hip hop, the abuse of women
is not new.
Far
from
anything new.
Yeah, it's not new.
The twist is with it being young girls.
Yeah. And it's, it's just sad, because thinking about it, even now that it's off, and we still got, I believe, 2 more nights to go, just all of the hurt that started from, all this hurt and pain, this whole documentary is because of keeping family secrets. That's the ignition point of this.
That's the ignition point.
R. Kelly is molested, and of course he's probably developmentally challenged. Maybe because he was molested, we don't know. We don't know which one came first or second, because a family member or a friend of the family might have saw, oh, he's a little challenged. So I know I can manipulate him.
Right.
I know I can do whatever. I'm already doing something with his brother or his sister or whatever. Because who knows? Because seeing that 2 out of the 4 children were molested.
That we know of.
I'm going to go in and say that they were probably all molested.
Yeah.
So now the keeping of that secret as children, as young adults, and as adults, now that has led to a whole nother group of children being, this cycle is just continuing.
Yeah.
And one thing that I hope that all of us as viewers can get is like, when it comes to us and our families, we all know. We all know. And we gotta stop letting this stuff slide. Because let's say it was a family friend. Uncle or aunt knew. They might not have known exactly what was happening, but they're like, what? They're too friendly. They're too friendly with my nephew.
Something ain't right.
They're too friendly with my niece.
Absolutely.
Or if it was an uncle or an aunt or something. Aunt such and such, she want to watch the kids a little too much.
Exactly. I don't like the way she look at them.
I don't like the way she look at them. I don't like the way she hugs them or hugs up on them.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so quick to let stuff slide because we're so afraid of
rocking the boat, I guess.
Rocking the boat. We're so afraid of calling somebody out and then everyone turns on us. Because I think that's what happens. That's legitimate.
That does happen.
Why you had to say anything? Or just, I don't know, which is something I don't understand. It's the whole thing of, when, little girls would go and tell their moms that mom's boyfriend, did something to them. And they turn on the little girl. You're lying and, you shouldn't be walking around with those little shorts on anyway. So it like turns on her like, whoa. And so those situations, do happen. And, also I kept saying throughout the whole thing, where is y'all's mama? Where is your mama? Where's your mama? Where's your mama? Because
apparently from the letter from Aaliyah's mom, even if the parents are there the whole time, you can still get married to the guy. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my whole thing. And I don't want to be judgmental in terms of that because, of course, we just have a 1-year-old. I don't have a teenager yet. And we have a boy, which I know is different. But I can't imagine, I'm trying to imagine having a 12, 13, 14-year-old, girl. And she's going to these parties at crazy times of night, or she's gone for days on end, and I don't know where she is.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure out where is your, and if you don't know where your baby is, are you trying to find her?
Because these women are approximately my age. No, they're probably a little older than me. Now that I think about it, because they might have a couple years on me or whatever. But I know when I was 13, my mom was not just letting me go wherever I wanted to go.
Right.
Do whatever I wanted to do. So I'm like, I think it's, and I hate to say this, but just like the agents and the managers and stuff, it's R. Kelly. And since he's R. Kelly, he's a star, it kind of lets you let them go a little bit because it's like, oh, she's going to be a star. R. Kelly wants, she's going to sing for him and then she's going to have this career. Of course, let her go. Sure. And then next thing you know.
That thinking is so ridiculous. Unless you are Jesus, I'm not letting my little girl go somewhere with this man and this group of other men. Because that's it. Don't forget, it's not just him. It's his whole entourage.
Yep.
Which is just men. And you're letting your precious, beautiful little girl go with this man somewhere in some dark studio or, to his home and all this other foolishness. Again, I say, where is your mama? Because if that's what mamas were doing, shame on you, because your job is to protect your child. I don't care who he is. It's like, kind of like what I said with Michael Jackson. I didn't I know why, because it was money and it was Michael Jackson. But why are you just letting your children go and stay and spend the night with this man you don't know? Yes, we all feel like we know. We have this personal connection to these stars. We don't know them.
Yeah, you don't know them like that.
You don't know them. And you just go and let your child, you don't know what's happening. Your child could be dead and you wouldn't know it. And, until the next day. Like, I don't understand people's minds.
I think what happens, and unfortunately, this is kind of attributed to what Donald Trump was talking about when he was like, you're rich, they just let you do it. I think something happens when you introduce celebrity. There's something that when celebrity is introduced, people just let things slide. People just let things pass and let things go that normally, like if I was to do something, they would not let go. Or the guy down the street, or the person, or the woman across the way, they wouldn't let them get away with it. Yeah. But a celebrity does it, and it's just kind of like this, okay, kind of thing,
And then 20 years later, your child is on the R. Kelly documentary.
I will say this, I guess, before we go. What another part that kind of hurts is we heard all of these women say that he would send his boys. Mm-hmm. He would send his boys to get me, or his boys to watch me, or his boys. So that means that not only are you completely okay with R. Kelly, or I guess your friend, your boy or whatever, being a pedophile, but then you're going to serve him up young girls.
Yeah.
That's a whole I don't know, that might be worse than being a pedophile itself.
Yeah, because
you're actively going and finding girls for him to prey on.
Yeah, because, were it not for his helpers, quote unquote, he wouldn't be able to do half the things that he does, because not only are they helping to find the girls, they're keeping these things hush,
they're insulating him.
Yeah.
Because the girl said that he left, and then one of his boys came around and gave him the phone number. So it's like,
right.
it's kind of like they kind of hit him with a drug deal kind of maneuver.
Right. And then, when the girls come and stay, or they come to his studio, they're blocking calls from when the parents finally do decide to show up and call and check on them.
Yeah, because the wife said that he changed her phone number and all that stuff without her even knowing.
The thing is this, though. She married him after that. So he secretly changed your cell phone number. And you find out that your parents have been trying to contact you for the longest time while y'all on tour, and they couldn't get you because R. Kelly secretly changed your phone number, and then you marry him after that. Ding, da ding, ding, da ding, ding.
I think Andrea's problem is and you said it while we were watching, is she thought she could fix him. If I just love him a little more, if I just do something this way, if I just do something that way, if I'm just nicer to him, if I just do whatever, then I can fix him. Because I will say this, she talked about how he opened up to her and said that he can't read and he needs her help. That's a huge deal. For someone at the level that he was at when he met her, to open up and say, I can't read, I need you to help me read, that is a huge deal.
It is a huge deal.
But it's weird, you have this vulnerability, this childlike vulnerability saying, I need you to help me read. And then on the very next, on the other hand, someone who is sending people out to find 13 and 14-year-old girls to bring them to him so that he can manipulate them into sexual situations. That's crazy.
It's funny because I think Dr. Phil said this, but I'm not sure. I know a psychologist said this, that when something traumatic happens to a child or a young person, their emotional development stops at that moment. So if something very traumatic happens to them at 13, from that point forward until they get counseling or whatever else, they have the emotional maturity of a 13-year-old. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense. because that's kind of, if you think about it, that's kind of how people behave. You know, with R. Kelly, he's behaving like a young boy who just learned about sex, and he has to have sex with everybody and everything
all the time,
in every way you can think of. You know, with two women, with one, tie her up, and all these. So he's like that young boy who just learned about porn and explores and finds all these different forms of porn, and now he wants to try it out because he can't separate the porn that is manufactured from real life.
Yeah.
And then you put that little boy in a situation where he can make it happen because
he's rich. Yeah, he's rich and he's famous.
And it's a horrible combination. And it makes sense. It's like he is stuck in that. And it's so funny because, again, we knew, when we say we Black folks, we knew bits and pieces about this.
But we didn't know it was this far.
We had no idea it was this deep and this far. And it's so shocking. It's so, I don't even know the word. It's shocking and it's heart-wrenching. And I'm sorry, my theme for the day is Where's Your Mama? I'm not going to stop saying it. Where is your mama? More importantly, mamas, where is your daughter?
Yeah, definitely. So, guys, thank you for hanging out with us. Put those comments down below. Holla at us. I'd love to talk about this. Just the ins and outs of how our community works, how our culture works with this, how we'll deal with this and other celebrities going forward. How we'll deal with our families and our own communities to try to hopefully fix them. And even if it's not good with your family all the time, you know, doctors will tell you sometimes to fix a bone, they have to break it to reset it so it can be fixed, so it can heal. So maybe we have to break our families just a little bit so they can heal. But before we bounce, of course, thank you for checking us out. You can follow me at ThatNERDSoul on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We can talk about R. Kelly. We can talk about Wu-Tang. We can talk about Star Wars. It's all good. So until I believe tomorrow or whenever the next 2 episodes drop, we'll see you then. And peace.